Gold prices were volatile on Friday's session after stronger than expected headline GDP numbers came out. But can this be a game changer? Joining me today is Will Rhind, CEO of GraniteShares. Will, good to have you back in studio. GDP numbers came out. A lot of people surprised by this data. Is this in line with your growth forecast here?
I think it's a little bit of a surprise to the upside, to be honest with you. And I think that most probably what's happening is that inflation expectations are starting to get ratcheted up again, which is obviously having a positive effect on the metals today.
So what do you think will be the Fed's next move? A lot of the concern is that, can we see more tightening now because of the data?
Yeah, I think that probably nothing changes, at least in the short term. But we'll have to figure out what happens with this data later on in the year. I think the two things for me is that if inflation expectations are starting to come back, that's obviously one side of it. The other side is more or positive GDP growth, underlying consumer or stronger consumer buying in the metals, and that's also positive for demand.
Well, what's interesting is looking at the precious metal space here, just when you think we know how gold might have reacted to the news, it does the opposite. The news should have hurt gold, but as we're speaking right now, at this moment in time, gold not hurting.
Yep, not hurting and up a little bit. And I think, again, that's a function of the inflation angle, but also potentially stronger demand from the underlying consumer. If GDP's up, people are feeling wealthier, have maybe more money in their pockets, and therefore more discretionary income to spend on gold.
Yeah. What about all those, doomsday sayers who are calling for the recession, the economy is faltering? Do you think that they'll be a little quieter now or subdued with the GDP, or not so fast?
Perhaps for the next few days, but I still think that they have a point. It's just a question of, at some point this cycle has to end. It's been a phenomenal ride. Equities have performed really well since the beginning of the year. Gold and silver less so, but the more pro-cyclical metals and platinum, palladium have also performed very well. But at some point, things will slow down, and we definitely have a slowing in China and other parts of the world. And so at some point that will happen. And
let's look at silver now, Will. Quite underwhelming here. Investors waiting for silver patiently to break out. How do you see it?
Well, actually, this news might be positive for silver. Right. And I think up until the release, obviously, on the GDP numbers, part of the reason why silver hadn't really been doing much is that we sort of expected China to ease and that to be positive for the silver market in terms of stimulating demand. But of course, that's sort of slightly changed a little bit. Rhetoric coming out of China being they're focusing more, or will try and focus more on reforms rather than outright easing. And so therefore maybe pulling back that demand a little bit for silver. So silver struggled a little bit, right. But I think the stronger GDP actually was positive.
And also, I guess the same thing for platinum then and palladium?
Same thing, slightly different story though, because platinum's coming off of such a low base. And so really this is a rebound story, and one where there's now such a big disparity between the price of palladium per ounce and the price of platinum that palladium's been selling off since those highs we saw a month or so ago, and platinum has performed very well so far this year. And I think that really the logic behind that is at some point you'd think that car makers or automakers would try and substitute or start to substitute platinum for palladium in the auto catalysts, given the price differential. So given that platinum is trading at such a discount to palladium, you'd think that people start to think about substitution. If that happens, increased demand for platinum and then more demand for investment.
All right. Well, Will Rhind, thank you so much for your thoughts. Thanks for coming in on this busy news day. I appreciate your comments.
Great to be here. Thank you.